Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul, and we are
SP Film Viewers.
Well, here we are, outside in the car park, just about to go in to see our film we're going to be reviewing this week.
Yay!
And I know we haven't done, well, we've done animation earlier in the year, and we've only covered 2 Japanese live-action films, but this will be the first anime. This one I wanted to see this in particular because it being anime, and it is one of those, like, about filmmaking.
I knew that. I saw it straight away and was like, this is like Singing in the Rain, but anime. And it's...
So, the title is called Pompo the Cinéphile.
What does Pompo mean?
I don't know, I'm guessing that's her name.
Isn't there those bears in Studio Ghibli? Like...
Oh, Pompoko, those raccoons that we covered previous
sorry,
episode.
Sorry, Taya.
The Tanukis,
Yes. She was like, oh, she didn't learn anything.
Yeah. So, so quite looking forward to seeing what this has to offer.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. It's only like hour and a half as well, so it's quite short and sweet.
Just like me.
Yeah. So the only caveat is with people actually maybe seeing this, it might be a bit tricky because it's like a limited release here in the UK anyway. I'm presuming it might be different in the States, or it might have already come out there, or it might be on digital platforms perhaps, I don't know. But so that's the only thing. Obviously, if you want to listen to like what spoiler stuff, then you might be a bit like, oh, unless you're not bothered about that, you obviously come back, you'll listen, or you'll maybe come back at a later date to listen to it. But yeah, I think I'll just strike while the iron's hot with this.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I am. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, so I'll speak to you soon.
Gene, hey! I'm going to let you shoot this screenplay of mine. Best of luck, Director Gene.
And we're back home. Thought we'd record this with the movie fresh in our minds.
What movie? I can't remember what I've watched. No, I think definitely this has been quite a nice experience to go to the cinema, watch a movie, record, and be one of those kind of nicely tied in a bow podcast, hopefully.
Yeah, all in, I suppose, one day doing the ramble and seeing it, and then as opposed to what we normally do is like do that, and then we think about watching the film, and then a couple of days later we sit down and do it. But
I didn't have to take any notes because I'd look a bit weird in the cinema writing notes down.
It's a bit tricky to do that. Yeah, so it's
a bit dark.
Yeah, unless you mentally note stuff down, which is kind of what I'm trying to do as I was watching, obviously. But like,
I did do that.
remember that bit. I don't know if you were like just like forgot we were doing it, or
no, I was just enjoying it for what it was.
Okay, but you have some thoughts to
bring
to the table.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's start off by saying that obviously a couple of things about like the director and stuff. His name is Takayuki Hirao. I'm not butchering that, but might be.
You sure it's not Jen, the director?
Gene.
Couldn't even do it right.
The actual director.
Not the director character in the film.
So I've not seen, before we came out to see what other anime stuff has he done. I've not come across any of his work before, so this is the first directing piece I've seen of his animation directing. But I did know that when it came up with the credits and as though they're clapping.
Yeah.
Clap is this new animation studio that's come out, so this is like I'm guessing, their first big major release. So
Kind of like it because they're already giving themselves a round of applause.
so the style of it I really liked.
Mhm.
From that, so there's good job on them. Hopefully, like, obviously in the future, more stuff will come out from them, and if they keep that style, then great.
It's stunning. It really is, and just the whole colours and the drawing style, even to the point of where the characters' outline like had pink sometimes around it. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, blue, yeah, I know
Yeah.
what I mean, like a sort of shine, not just black outline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't all of it was outlined. It was just like kind of highlighted outlines,
Areas, yeah.
and it just even that was just beautifully drawn and coloured in and stuff like that. I've made it more vivid,
Unique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Some amazing shots of landscape as well within this film, where obviously it is to do with the film, making a film, like Singing in the Rain, and it's showing more landscape side instead of like studio based in Singing in the Rain. But we go to Sweden and
the rolling hills and all that kind of
all
stuff.
of that, it's just like, and then to comprehend that is drawn.
Oh yeah,
because it does look as beautiful as a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody could take a photo. I'm assuming it's all done on computers nowadays. Like
oh
what
yeah,
you
absolutely,
do.
yeah.
But
that's still,
the detail.
I still think, much like Ghibli and other studios that work in anime in Japan, it's predominantly done in 2D, and there'll be a little bit of 3D elements in, unless it's completely that. But that's, as we kind of know, that's the mainstay of where 2D animation still thrives. Whereas in the West, it's kind of not really a lot of effort's gone into that. I mean, like the Bob's Burgers film was a rarity for this day and age of something that was big on the big screen that was all completely 2D.
And it's a different style, so like it's more cartoonized. So you can get away with it being more simplistic with Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's got crazy shots and the camera pannings and all this kind of stuff and all.
And the colours and the details on like everybody's faces in the background, just everything was just so precise with everything they did and wanted to do. And I think that's because you felt that intensity from the story as well, and you felt like that's what they were wanting to do within that film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because what they're wanting to do is create a film and giving two people basically the chance of a lifetime. So it's one of those things where you get an opportunity and you just started out and someone's actually believing in you, and then they go, right, okay, it's your turn, and you like that scene where they go, what? And you're like, yeah, everyone feels that way when somebody like says,
yeah, they're not prepared.
Or I want you to give you a presentation, or I want you to go to this client or whatever, and you're like, I'm not ready for this. But at the same time, you're eager to have that opportunity.
Because it's always having that push, isn't it? You always sit in the background and you might have these ideas, but you're afraid of what people might think of them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a bit like you, to be fair. I think
definitely. I see myself a little bit in this.
I think you're the one that if somebody wasn't pushing you and probing you to do something, you'd probably just stick in your lane. Mm-hmm. And I think I used to be like that. Definitely used to just love my comfort zone. But actually there's so much more to life within it. So I kind of see myself in two characters, and I think this is what worked well with the film. You do a film or anything for yourself, but yet you're also considering your audience and how they would react and how they can relate to it.
Well, that's what the kind of parallel was within this film itself, because director Gene, who's been hired on this project to do basically his dream and everything, but he's like, it was put under so much pressure to perfect it. And in this script is about a musician who's wanted to like perfect and stuff and put so much time and effort. So you have throughout, more particularly at the back end, where it's kind of like overlaying, relating his passion for film to the character's passion to music and all that kind of stuff, and like layering it up that way. So there's that.
And I think for me, I'm Pompo a little bit. I'm like the main director of.
Well, she was producer.
Yeah. And then I think a little bit of Natalie, I'd say, was coming in. My Pompo is the film length.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was proper chuckling about in the cinema. I just thought, oh, this is such a me thing. And I could really relate to it. Of it being like, no film should be any longer than like an hour and a half. I get it. And I just thought it was really funny to have that in a film. And especially for me, because I always complain and say I can't, my attention span's not there after that. I get bored. And you, I think, is it Gene?
Gene, yeah.
Where it's like, I can sit for ages. And you're like the film buff and that he is you.
Yeah, I suppose so. And what I kind of found intriguing as well about what, like, an example of what film they were touching upon, like, he's going to watch in the screening room was Cinema Paradiso, which I think is something we might cover in the future anyway.
So I was going to say I haven't seen it.
I won't go too much detail about it, but it does kind of relate quite well to what the film is going for anyway, in particularly the back end. But the basic overall thing is about a young boy in Italy who's like enamored by cinema, and he like befriends like the projectionist and learns about all the tricks of the trade of doing like, you know, the cinema projection, all these other films and stuff like that. So that's kind of like a good use of including a film that's kind of relatable in that sense.
Okay. Could have done Singing in the Rain.
I don't know. I think there's probably that is obviously an example of like movie within a movie type of thing, but there's plenty of.
I really like a movie within a movie. It really does something for me because it makes you appreciate what you're watching even more. So when they're on about lighting, when they're on about position,
this one in particular, goes through a lot more than Singing in the Rain did. That was just kind of the microphone. But obviously, that was the old style.
I think as well, there was one scene for the Singing in the Rain. For me, was when they went into the studio and we've kind of got I think he's singing to her, and she's on the ladder and the wind sweeps. He puts the lights on and all of that. That kind of always stands out for me as
in that,
as a kind of setting the scene basically while they're filming.
Yeah.
So I think this is what I can kind of see the comparisons with the two here when we're in Sweden, and there's whole loads of reasons why these scenes work and how like everyone's getting so excited and passionate about things because like timing is key, weather, lighting.
This is true. Yeah, there's a lot of those things going. Although I've never worked on a movie set before, but I don't know how involved everybody like chipping in ideas about stuff, if that's really something that would really happen. Like, what if we do, some like not just the cameraman, but like the one who's doing the runner or something, basically, or whatever, the lighting guy chips an idea about, what if you do this in the scene? And they're going, yeah, sure, whatever, we'll do whatever we want. It's like, I don't know if that's
gonna actually
that's
fly.
Really good, because the director does have to say at the end of the day. But to be honest, he's a bit of a like, okay, whatever.
Let's try it, yeah. And I think that's what makes it an anime, because it
has to be that way. If it was too realistic, then it would be a bit rubbish.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way it's going with it. For me, with the Natalie, I think I am that shy, kind of reserved girl, and I've had that chance when it's like, why is somebody throwing me a bone basically and giving me an opportunity, and you kind of doubt yourself. And there's a part where she's at the pool and she's kind of thinking she's not pretty enough to be the main lead and everything like that. So it just gives you an overall of everything a film is, but in this most beautiful, simplistic, detailed way. Like, even the way that they cut the negatives and the editing part, which definitely brought me to you when...
Yeah, I definitely see myself in that.
Editing the film and the audio and all of that, which the screen that we saw on there was literally what you use, or it felt like to me anyways, pretty much similar kind of thing when you're doing your animations. And
yeah, that's kind of almost like like an Adobe thing with when I'm putting together these episodes. To be honest, obviously it's not that intense as like hours and hours and thing, but for footage, I can imagine doing a big lengthy thing. I would certainly struggle with, if I was my job, to be going, right, okay, what's an important scene here to cut and what to keep, and like, oh, should I use that angle? Should I use this angle? And what I kind of found interesting because it was like, hang on a minute, directors don't normally edit their own films, but in this, she said, Pompo, the producer, was like, I usually try and get the directors to do it if they can, type of thing. It's like, okay, I'm guessing that's just my means of having him being, stressing out and stuff like what to keep, what being a perfectionist with, like, oh no, that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
That is you.
That's not good enough. But I don't think, even to his extent, I would be like, I'll just, I'd get to a certain point, but like not to scrap the entire thing and start all over again, because that would just, and like you got weak to get it all done. I wouldn't have a meltdown.
Be sick of the sight of it. Like there was one part where it did remind me of you when you're animating.
Yeah, we get that all the time with them doing like lip syncing and stuff, scrubbing back through and all that kind of stuff, and all these other bits. And it happens all the time when we're doing these products.
It's like, you're sick of that line, like literally hearing it, then going back again, then playing it again. It's like, by the end of it, I won't want to watch it because you've probably seen it several times by playing it over and over again.
Yeah. So I can imagine being an actual proper movie editor is not an easy job, and I feel like it's kind of making it seem like, it's easy for us to say, oh, that director's rubbish, why did he do that thing? But it kind of does make you think a little bit, like it is a bit of a daunting task sometimes to put these together. But you got choices, and you obviously have more than one person who's overseeing things. It's not just one person sat in a room doing everything, because that's ridiculous.
Also, it's not just the director, is it? It's the person who's written it. It's the producer. You've got all these people before you even start the film. So the director can do the best, but if it's already been written and it's pretty poor, you can only do with what you've got.
You work with that's it. Yeah.
There was something that made me laugh, and I can see it on your notes. Is the place where they are meant to be like Hollywood, but they've changed the name? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I've written down so I know what it was actually. It was called Nyaliwood for some reason, which I took the point on that. It's interesting that the fact that everything was like a alternate universe world of Hollywood, and it wasn't like set. It didn't seem like it was set in Japan, despite the fact that what we saw was Japanese with subtitles, and obviously the lips are moving to that. But this probably very accessible for people who just want to see the English dubbed version, because everything in the background was written in English text, and everything was Americanized and everything. So it was.
I actually didn't even notice. I know it sounds so bad of me. I can't believe it. But I would say, even the style of it, you've got Pompo, who looks the most anime.
Yeah, with the wild hair and everything,
Yeah, she looks like you kind of classic anime, kind of over the top. And then you've got kind of Natalie, who is more like, what was it we watched before COVID hit and we went to the cinema? It was an anime. I can sing the theme tune to you in my Japanese.
Wasn't Weathering with you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of more detailed style becomes
sort of, yeah,
within it,
but not quite. It's still a very slightly cartoony-ish to it, but I can see where you're coming from.
More the hair detail and everything.
Yeah. But then you get like the other characters, like Miss Steer? There was the one who was like the blonde bombshell type.
Oh,
one
yeah.
Who was like really,
like sexualised kind of in a sense.
Yeah. So that was probably even a step further akin to what Weathering with You and Your Name might have been. And then Martin Braddock, the one who's like the big famous, like the greatest actor in the world type of.
Who would that be our equivalent of now? Tom Cruise.
he's not the greatest actor of all time. I'm not just saying that because thing, but in terms of, I don't know, years ago it might have been someone like, I don't know,
George Clooney or
Robert De Niro or something like that. I don't know.
what about Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks. He's still good in most regards, but I don't know, in terms of really diverse stuff, he's kind of plays the same safe-ish kind of things. He's not really, I don't really see him much as like a really hard arsehole gangster type or anything like that, or like really powerful. I mean, powerful in the sense of like, heartfelt.
But then, same with Tom Cruise. It's like, how many Mission Impossibles do you do?
Too many.
I will say also with this film, with the actual film story, does that make sense?
The story of making the film, do you mean?
The story of the actual film within the film.
Making the production of it.
Yeah, and the fact that it was like a musician who was being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Straight away reminded me of Whiplash. Like, this is where I was going with in my head.
There was a few scenes where it kind of like that, where the character in that Martin was playing was like flipping out at the cellist or whatever and going "Oh, let's do it again" type of thing, and And
I don't truly know what the film was about, but that's like literally just a musician that's been a perfectionist that misses out on his life with his family, and then kind of rekindles his relationship with his daughter. I think
it was to do with him sort of like struggling with making this aria, which is obviously like a classical piece of music.
Well, I thought that's what his daughter was called.
This is your aria. It's like this is your symphony or whatever.
Oh,
it's
okay,
a type
I know what a symphony is. Yeah,
type of thing. So it was that, and he's like losing his way with that. So then he had to like take a break, and then he meets Natalie's character in Switzerland, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Switzerland. And then I guess that makes him like a breath of fresh air, and she sings this aria, which is like I think it's the more operatic element of classical music, and that was like inspiration, I guess. And then he was able to then work his way back.
So it wasn't his daughter, but he had a wife.
He did, but that was on a flashback or something that was put on. But yeah, so that was the basis of the story, is what I could tell. I wanted to also bring up the fact what you mentioned about obviously like the scenery and stuff, and also to reflect what you brought up, Weathering with You, in terms of, if you recall from those, obviously Studio Ghibli and those films like Your Name and Weathering with You, are they more realistic, or obviously they're slightly different style anyway? But do you think this stands on its own, or is it good as? Better, worse?
Ghibli is more magical.
Yeah.
And softer within its lines, probably because it's more hand drawn, if I'm thinking of original.
Yeah.
And obviously the painted backgrounds and everything.
Yes.
So it's more like a softer palette and more cartoonized a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Weathering with You and Your Name, it seems more.
That was definitely a lot more realistic in terms of how detailed some of those things were.
But the city, I think it was more like a grungy kind of feel, and
representation of Tokyo. And,
straight cut lines and bolder in a sense, and a lot of wispy hair.
Yeah, detailed hair.
Whereas this was,
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think so, because it's like you had more your buildings and your kind of city life in the other two with Weathering with You. Yeah. Whereas this, you got to appreciate some of the sceneries that they were trying to incorporate within this film. Yeah. And that was in itself just stunning. I think there were certain ways of they've done the drawings which makes it just stand out. Also, the art throughout was different as well.
Yeah, so being a new studio, it's going to have its own style.
But like, even when you were going from, it was more detailed within the film that they were creating compared to then when they were kind of having the normal kind of story creating the film. if that makes sense. There was a little bit of
so.
more detail within the actual film itself.
Yeah, it's that's down to lighting and way it's edited, because much like when you see certain things like on something that's shot on TV or a YouTube video, it's down to how that is shot can be and look different and feel more to life. But when you do things cinematically and somehow it looks and feels that way, and I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but there's something about that is different from reality, because especially if you've got like loads of effects or whatever and stuff, obviously it's going to be that way, but there's just a way it looks completely different from how you would film just an old camera. Me and you, like now, whatever kind of thing would look very different from what you see on the big screen, big blockbuster type thing. So
definitely, I think it was just, I'm really glad we went. It was just one of those films where it was just overall really enjoyable, and as well, it was only 90 minutes.
Yeah, purposely as well.
Yeah.
So
I did really appreciate that, and it was, I wouldn't say anything needed to be cut.
No, absolutely not. I don't think so. There's not much to argue on that, because to say like everything seemed to have a purpose in the film. I did like I say, obviously when he's doing the editing effect, he's almost like a action hero pose with like a sword that's kind of slicing through the film reels as he's cutting down his footage. So obviously that's the dynamicness, obviously from seeing a lot of cinema and stuff, and he's clearly got an artistic eye or like a camera eye, because there's like a shot where he sees, I think Natalie, when she's jumping in a puddle and he's kind of slowed down, it's like just like a camera lens type
I can actually appreciate that as part of my photography degree. I can kind of see certain things and think, oh, that looks absolutely stunning, and look at things of how I would envision taking a photo of it. My eyes do that.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that shot when he zoomed in and kind of in his head, it took a mental picture of her basically. And it's just like, I can relate to that scene, whereas, and the lighting, thinking of the composition, where's best for somebody to stand. And then I think yours is like the editing after the fact, or scrolling through. So I think both of us together, you never know, we could create his own movie. You'd have to write it though. I'll just have to get emotionally attached to the characters. That's what I'll do.
I guess this is kind of almost a way of like, oh, if you've got ideas, then almost anybody could make a film. But it doesn't obviously necessarily mean it's a good film. But he's obviously got the luxury of having been part of the studio, and he works there all the time and everything. So he's got the resources and he knows connections. Yeah. So that's the only difference, really.
And he's been given an amazing opportunity, but obviously he's got potential. Yeah. Pompo sees something within him.
And also the fact as well of when Pompo was saying about, it's like a script that's written for an actor in mind, which I'm sure does happen sometimes as well. Like, you know,
I wonder what happens when you write it for an actor or an actress in mind, and then they don't want to star in it. Like, what happens then?
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably happened
to
countless
somebody.
Times. Yeah, they're busy with another project or something, and yeah, I'm sure that stuff goes down all the time.
I do think this works quite nicely though, that it's giving Natalie her like debut kind of within the film, and it kind of gives you that underdog vibe of anyone can have a dream, and if they work hard enough,
it's like
they can succeed.
I felt a tiny bit like La La Land, because she was working at like a cafe in one scene at the beginning, but then she was also doing construction stuff as randomly as well on sets. So that didn't happen in La La Land, but I feel like it's just like the old thing with that, you know, girls who were trying to make their way in Hollywood, and you know, doing the auditions and for like commercials and stuff, and just shot down all the time and stuff. So I'm not sure if we've got anything else to bring up off the top of my head from this first watch. Really, I think I've covered most aspects of it. Really,
without giving too much away, I feel like that's like a good whistle tour through.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. it's not like, oh my god, I can't believe you told me.
No,
It's not one of those kind of things. Like there's a big twist or anything like that.
No.
It's more going through the process of not step by step as such, but kind of like a brief overview of like what kind of goes on into a production more so than other films might. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I guess it kind of shows a bit of insight into, in a cartoonized way, obviously, how things go down when movie production comes.
I think it does, and it makes it insightful to know everyone really is like a cog in a machine. Like, you would not be there if you didn't have the funding, which we kind of gathered. The impact of if you want to do something additional, how many people you've got to call on to make that happen. You need to get your actors back, you need to get the lighting, you need to get the camera crew.
Yeah.
And it made you appreciate when you went to the credits, actually seeing all of those names.
Yeah. Even if we're in Japanese.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, there was another thing about because there's a thing about the bank with the loan, obviously reminded me about the fact that, obviously had to do the reshoot, and it's like, there's the costs and stuff, and we had to push back on the premiere of the film. So obviously, again, it's anime, so they've got to do a nice, like, oh yes, we'll do it, look at all the people who are crowdfunding the film and stuff, and it's like, turn around, the bank's going like, no, you can't do this. But it's like, no, we live streamed the whole thing, and everybody's really interested in this film, and stuff. And
but I think it's because, yet again, the people are so passionate about it. How could someone not be interested when somebody's so passionate about something?
That's true, but a lot of these GoFundMe pages, they bless them, they do try and get things off the ground, and these projects, they might be really passionate about it, but obviously it's the demand of whether it's interesting enough for people to invest money into it to help them get, with the Kickstarter, get them off the ground type of thing. But sometimes they just fall flat, sadly. But it's life is not always roses, and you get the support that you think you're gonna get. If it's
you're trying to say life's not always like the movies, Paul.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But we go to the movies for escapism. From our lives, to remind you that it's not so rubbish.
You've watched loads of films. So what do you have to escape from in real life that makes you watch loads of films? So have you got no sparkle in your eye? Is that what it is?
Do you mean no ambition?
No, when Pompo says, like, is it Jean?
Jean. Think of Jean from Bob's Burgers.
Jean. Oh, yeah. So Jean's gone through quite, hardship is kind of...
Well, no, he's a real loner and everything, and he's got on the lowest rung, really, basically. And I think it's the fact that he kind of hasn't got anything, whereas some people who are more too ambitious don't have, because they expect everything on the silver plate type of thing.
That's what I'm meaning. So, that sparkle of kind of thinking everything, that's what she says, he hasn't got a sparkle in his eye. It's not that he's not ambitious, he's just...
To that effect, what are you saying about me?
That maybe you haven't got as much of a sparkle in your eye, but that's because you watch so many films and it's your escapism.
Mm-hmm. But he has watched a lot of films.
Yes, like you.
And he hasn't,
But then becomes a sparkle because obviously he gets an opportunity. Whereas I think I'm Pompo, I've got sparkly eyes.
Starry-eyed, yeah.
Yeah, see the world as a beautiful place. Whereas I think you're more a realistic kind of person. Whereas I kind of put unicorns and candy canes on it.
Perhaps, I don't know.
So, since we haven't seen the film, neither of us, it's your turn first.
To score, yeah.
I'll put my feet up. Oh, the pressure. It's horrible, isn't it, going first?
It is, because...
Yeah, I like it when it's your turn.
Especially as I'm not sure where to put it. I don't think it'll be a 10.
That's just shocking.
Only because I know that sounds daft considering what you've seen films for the first time, and you might give them a 10 or whatever. So I feel like, I mean, this could change on a future rewatch and stuff, the scoring, but I found it interesting with like what it was going for in terms of like the production of a film, and stuff. Enjoyed that. Enjoyed the characters as well. They weren't irritating and stuff. I kind of see myself in Jean a little bit, perhaps.
A lot.
In some degrees, yeah. I didn't. I mean, I don't know if I sometimes have baggy.
And you won't stop until you've got it done.
Yeah, so perhaps so. Yeah, it's a bit of a hard truth there, perhaps a little.
Luckily, you ain't got to the burnt out stage.
No, that's been at uni and stuff sometimes. To be fair, I think it could increase. I don't know if you're gonna be like what to the thing, but I think I'm gonna put it 8.5.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's I got what I wanted from it. So like anime and to do with films is great. It's just a simplistic story, really, about it. Really, that's covered basically what it needed to do. Really, didn't need to be too like crazy with what the story was trying to tell, or like big twist, like I said, like I can't believe that happened or anything like that. So yeah, it was enjoyable. I will watch it again in the future. So it may increase on future watches, is what I'm saying, really. So
yeah, no, I appreciate where you're coming from with that. I think I'm not far off you, to be fair. I was going to give it a 9, so not 0.5 more. Yet again, I'm a lover of films about films, clearly, because Singing in the Rain is my favourite film. It felt a bit of Singing in the Rain vibes for me, so that's why I've scored it a bit higher than you have. I do think the characters, they were lovable. There's certain ones I can relate to. They all really seem to have a good place within the story. It's beautifully stunning, and it kind of captures your heart a little bit as well. Like, it's got a really good moral behind the whole
inspiring
film. Yeah, it shows anyone can do anything and follow your dreams, basically. That's what it is. Also, no brainer, it's an anime. Why would we not love it? And we got to go to the cinema with it and have a hot chocolate. So I feel like overall movie experience was brilliant. And I feel like when you go to the cinema, you hear other people talking about it. When you walk out and people are like, oh, what do you think? That's the first thing everybody always says when you walk out of a cinema.
No, yeah.
And it was nice just to hear what other people were thinking of it. And there was nothing bad said.
Yeah, no one was going like, oh, that was rubbish. Or...
No.
Obviously, there are films where the people are probably going out like, this is a...
And it was really a collective bunch in the cinema, so it was enjoyable to see who was going to see this kind of film. Yeah, especially with it being Japanese, like, subtitles.
People took one out the way, obviously, it wasn't ram-packed, but there was just like few people who had chosen to go for this one instead of the English dubbed one. I know it's obviously a limited run anyway of the film here in the UK, but
I think that's why it's one of those things where it's important to actually go and attend it, so that then hopefully it can become more often. Yeah.
I know they do at the showcase where we go to. Sometimes they do that. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if people might not be able to go see this. Obviously, when this episode comes out, it'll be after the fact when the release day, but hopefully down the line, or it becomes more available on digital after the fact.
Yeah,
it being in the cinema, I think that's probably the case.
And then people
like
can
on a streaming
seek it
service
out.
or some description. Yeah, to recommend. So yeah, it's a good experience.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So thank you very much for listening to this episode, and if you would like to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you might get your podcasts from.
And if you want to follow us on social media, if you haven't already, I mean, why haven't you?
Do it!
We're on platforms of Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok under the handle SP_filmviewers. You can leave us a comment, give us a message, recommend a film you want us to see, or even if you want to join our podcast or want us to join yours, then just drop us a line. We're normally more than happy to be available to do either, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you would like to leave us a nice 5-star review, you can do so on Apple Podcasts and wherever else they do the scoring system. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I just hope you've all really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed it, watching it and having a little date night with you anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't enjoy it, I've enjoyed myself. So
that's the main thing.
That's the main thing. So hopefully you'll be able to get to see the film once
at some point,
it comes out. I would really recommend it.
It's probably a bit like annoyingly how tricky You Are Umaso is to find. I don't think it's on YouTube anymore, annoyingly.
Oh, that's gutting.
Yeah, and it's like I can't seem to find it on the thing. It might be on my hard drive, perhaps. I'm low quality, but that's the only thing we've got tied to it now, I think. Honestly,
sad.
So this is what I'm talking about with things like being, or what you mentioned about like trying to bring things over to Western audience, and the more of a crowd to, more of a wider audience.
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of tricky. But obviously, you need the demands for it to be pushed in the right direction. So,
well, to say that it was a Wednesday night that we've gone to see this film, there was a good turnout for a Wednesday night at 7:00, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So thank you very much for listening once again, and we will speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.